Let's talk to Trevor Williams. He's chair of the Shadow Monetary Policy Committee and is a former chief economist at Lloyds Bank. And he joins us now. Good morning to you, Trevor.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us. Now, the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee meets every month to talk about interest rates. They meet on a Wednesday, and then we get the result at midday on the Thursday. That's what we're going to hear today. Your Shadow Monetary Policy Committee is set up by the Institute of Economic Affairs, isn't it? And you meet, I think, every quarter to discuss what you think, the economic outlook's looking like and where interest rates should be. If you were on the actual real MPC at the Bank of England, would you be raising interest rates by 0.5% today, 14 months in a row raise?
No, we wouldn't, and that's the point. You're right. We vote as if we were the the actual monetary policy committee, and not do what we think they are going to do, but what we would do. And our discussions led us to vote on a majority basis, 8-1, to leave rates on hold, and actually to stop doing QT as well, which is to stop selling the bank's holdings of gilts and bonds, which is effectively raising long-term interest rates and contracting the money supply.
Right, OK, so you would go down a very different path. There's lots of talk that, look, the interest rates going up, it does harm people, particularly those who have not got fixed-rate mortgages. Eventually it will hit those people when they come back onto variable rates. In fact, renters whose landlords face these mortgage rises and they put their rents up as well. It's difficult for businesses. However, inflation is damaging to everybody. It damages the whole economy. And if we have to take the risk of damaging consumer confidence, have to take the risk of recession, getting down inflation is more important. What do you say to that?
Well, getting down inflation is absolutely important, but how you get it down is important as well, and the damage that you cause. And also, there's a bit of a fallacy going on, which is somehow that the increase in inflation was caused by the pace of economic activity in the UK. It wasn't. It was caused by a supply-side shock. The invasion of Ukraine by Russia raised global energy and food prices, and that fed through to everybody, including us. And those that were most exposed to it, who had lower gas reserves, for example, who were more dependent on some of the imports of food, as we were, for instance, are more infected by that. And so raising interest rates to depress economic activity won't solve that problem.
It's sort of like giving someone antibiotics for a cold, which is caused by a virus, isn't it? It's just, it's kind of the wrong medicine at the wrong time. In terms of the impact it's going to have, historically, 5.25% interest rates isn't high, but because people have had to borrow such incredible multiples of their incomes now to get on the housing ladder, I'm told this is the equivalent of sort of 13% back in the 1990s, early 90s, when of course we saw it reach 15%. We saw a load of foreclosures, a load of people losing their homes. Do you think people are going to lose their homes as a result of this?
Well, I think eventually, of course, there will be an effect on those who can't afford to pay their mortgages, and one would expect defaults to rise. We're already seeing signs that corporate liquidations are increasing. So, of course, over time, household and individual bankruptcies will increase as well. That's inevitable. But I also like to make a point that you referred to about the level of interest rates, and it is indeed high. Compared with where it would have been historically, if you take account of the fact of how much debt people have. We should also bear in mind in that context, though, that the period of ultra-low interest rates was because of slow economic activity and very low inflation. And the question is, will we return to low inflation once this crisis is over? And I suspect that we will, because the pace of economic activity simply don't justify inflation of 3 or 4%.
And we also still have this issue. I want to come to you on what Mel Stride, the Work and Pension Secretary's had to say. But get on your delivery bike, front page of the Times, Minister tells the over 50s. And this is over 50s, a lot of whom decided to leave the workplace either before or during lockdown and then never gone back, thought they could make ends meet until retirement. That between 50 and 65, we've got 3.4 million of those people, so not entitled to a state pension, maybe getting already a private pension, many not though, but they're not working, but half are believed to be struggling financially. We have a really big issue, don't we, with 8.6 million people of working age, that's basically 20%, 1 in 5 of working age people in this country, not working. They're economically inactive. They're not claiming jobs. They're not looking for work. They're just not working. A lot of them are disabled, people who are ill, people waiting for operations. A lot of people just say, no, I'm taking a retirement, I'm done. We cannot sustain an economy with an ageing population. The NHS costs we've got, all of the bills we've got, the interest rate the government is paying on its debts, with a fifth of the working age population sitting on their bums.
Well, it's a complex issue, isn't it? Because you're right, there's some people that are poor even though they have retired or at the age where they maybe are unable to work. It's a challenge for society, and it implies higher taxation, of course, and more expenditure. I'm not sure the solution is to suggest that people should get on their bikes, as it were, because we do have a long-term illness issue.
But wait a second, why are people in Britain so uniquely more long-term ill than they are in most of the Western countries? We are pretty unique in the world in terms of the impact of long COVID. The West Coast and East Coast of America and Britain, that's where long COVID hit. Didn't hit pretty much anyone else in any other country. Why, people think, it's an ageing population, it's lockdown, it's COVID, but why is it uniquely hitting us and not other countries in Europe, for instance?
Well, I mean, on one definition, remember, the UK has a very low unemployment rate, historically, and that, especially given the level of interest rates and the monetary tightening that's taken place, it's extraordinarily low. And I think that the level of illness may well be related to the austerity measures, perhaps, that were put in place after 2008-9, as some people suggest. It could even be that the NHS isn't as great as keeping people healthy as we think it is. Yeah. All of those things, I'm afraid, do
impact. Trevor Williams, really interesting to talk to you. He's chair of the Institute of Economic Affairs' Shadow Monetary Policy Committee. He says his committee wouldn't vote to raise interest rates again today.